Welcome to the final episode we have for the Olympian Affair. We said we would do it in 4 parts, but we did it in 3 because we couldn't stop reading. These last 4 chapters, the last half of the book was paced quite a bit differently, I think, than the first half.
Yes, it was kind of just like full on. A lot of stuff going on. It's crazy how big the Nissan was.
Dude, holy crap. I didn't realize they were like colossal. Like, they could probably eat Godzilla.
So it was a mile long.
It's freaking insane. I don't think Godzilla's that tall.
Like, holy crap. I think it's just massive. It has like tons of tentacles that are just as long, or if not longer, probably.
Probably. I think they are longer. And that answers the question, because we were asking before, like, how the heck does like an animal get in every nook and cranny of a spire? And the answer is he has like 6 billion tentacles that he just sticks everywhere.
Sounds pretty grotesque how he eats you too. Because
Yes.
he grabs it and he just sticks you to its belly and you get dissolved by acid and sucked in.
That sounds awful.
Oh my god. Well, we also find out, so those little weird slug things from where you're born, or it's larvae, apparently.
Yes.
It's little babies. It was dropping those as it was eating. So it's funny, they start so small, relatively.
So yeah, so like the larvae, it's funny that they go from 10 feet long to like over a mile long. So.
That's insane. I actually think the larva seems kind of small for how big the adult is.
Yeah.
You would think that the baby would be like 20 feet or something. I don't know, but
It made me think of like a boa constrictor.
I'll
So
go small
when
babies.
his babies come out, it has kind of relatively small babies, and they can grow like super long, I think. I don't know if it's like the boa constrictor, but there's some sort of snake
like
out
the
there.
pythons. I
Python, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
think. Pythons get freaking massive.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
I hate pythons.
Alligators too, they have smaller babies, so I don't know.
That's true.
I didn't really have like I had a hard time imagining what it looked like in my head.
Yeah, it was.
I eventually just pictured this big blob of flesh with a bunch of tentacles just going like.
It has a mouth somewhere, I figure, because it's always like moaning and roaring or whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of like more the climax.
Yeah.
Bunch
We
of
jumped
stuff
right to the
happens. Yeah, that's stuff like near the end. Yeah, a bunch of stuff happens before that. That's worth mentioning. So Bayard, we left off last week. The cliffhanger was it seemed that Bayard had been poisoned. Turns out he was poisoned, but not lethally.
Not by not
and
lethally,
not by
who
an
we would've
enemy.
thought.
He was poisoned by his lover, Abigail Hinton.
Freaking lady.
And she did it because she was so afraid that he was going to die. And so he sacrificed her lover's best friend to save her lover. So Grimm has to end up dueling Rafe Velasco.
Who is a butt crack.
And it goes about how you would expect. He's Grimm's not really like a duelist, but he does have like experience with combat. And so he comes up with this plan that essentially takes advantage of the fact that Rafe is super arrogant. And I think his plan also only worked because Rafe has duelist's instincts and not warrior instincts, if that makes sense. I'll explain why. So basically they're fighting, and of course Grimm's just getting his butt handed to him. He doesn't even have a chance. Like, he's getting stabbed and slashed and losing blood and getting slower and slower and slower. But then after like a little break in the duel, Ray finally decides, okay, it's time to kill him. And his plan that Grimm was going to do was kind of like cripple me, but I kill you plan. Because Rafe goes for like the kill shot at the heart, but he deflects it with his saber, which is like, it's not a dueling sword. And apparently the dueling swords are like razor thin. They're like really flimsy and flexible, but they're like razor
I almost
sharp.
pictured like a fencing sword versus
Yeah.
like a broadsword.
A fencing sword with an edge though, because
Yeah,
they're like
with an
cutting. But like that.
So
kind
it's
of similar
probably
thing. Kinda
more
like,
rigid than a fencing sword.
Kind of like Princess Bride, the swords they use in there.
Yeah, there you go.
Kind of like that. Maybe a little thinner, but because they're really flexible, like they could like bend it. Anyway, so he goes to do that, and he deflects it, so it goes into his leg, and he's pushing so hard, the Rafe is, that it goes into Grimm's leg and out the back, and then Grimm falls to his knee and bends his leg and traps the sword in. and then he kind of sweeps up with his thing. And this is what I'm saying, that I think this only worked because Rafe has dueling instincts and not warrior instincts. Because let's remember, Rafe is a warrior born, so he's like an order of magnitude stronger than any human. And on top of that, he like is really physically fit and he's been training. And so I think this worked because he only has duelist, because he traps his sword in his leg, but later on, warrior born strength is described as like almost like Captain America level strength.
Yeah,
is what it seems like, if not maybe a little bit more. Is what a warrior born has. Like there's one point where Benedict he goes to these sewer grates and he grabs, they're like barred shut, and he grabs them and rips them off the wall, like they're like concreted in. And so if he can do that, there's no way that Rafe wouldn't be able to pull the sword out of Grimm's knee. And I think that's why I'm telling you that he doesn't have that warrior instinct, because he's like used to like quick and finesse and
yeah.
And so when he traps his leg, he tries to pull it out like finessely. He doesn't like rip it out like he would with his warrior born strength. I think that's the only reason it didn't work, and Grimm was able to be slightly fast enough. So he sweeps up, cuts off his fingers, and cuts off his head. And I was like,
which is great. It wasn't clean either. He like dealt him the killing blow and then had to sit there and hack at his head, which I thought was probably just lovely to watch. Just this guy, and then he throws it off the spire
picks up his
too.
head and just throws it off the spire. Yeah.
What I thought was funny is there was like birds or something there that were like, oh yeah, dinner, and then swooped after the head. And it's like, that's a good way to go. You get your head chopped off, and now birds are gonna eat your face.
But then in typical Jim Butcher fashion, I don't know why he does this in all his books. Maybe not all his books. I don't know if he does this in Furious of Calderon, but in every Judge Dresden book, there's some mortal wound dealt, and then he still has to go. The main character still has to go fight the main battle. Yeah. And so Grimm is like, he's seriously beat up. Like he passes out. The doctor says that he's probably never going to be able to walk without a cane again. He's lost like tons of blood, can barely even see straight. Yeah. But then they get attacked by the Mist Maw, and then he springs into action, and he's like barely able to function, but he's like doing all these battle stuff while he's like practically dead. Like, I think Jim Butcher likes doing that.
Yeah, it's more dramatic that way.
Because I swear, in every single Dresden book, and if you read the Dresden book one after another, I would be willing to bet money that within the first 10 chapters, Harry has like some insane wound.
Seriously,
that just like seriously.
It's definitely at least it's like it's the majority of them are like that. I don't know if it's every single one, but it's definitely like the majority of it are like that.
I would say it's like all of them.
And it wasn't just Grimm either. Like, I think the only one of the main characters that wasn't injured was Gwen. Like,
and even Gwen had the sprained wrist. Even
yeah, she did have a sprained wrist. But like, Bridget is seriously wounded. Like, Benedict is still trying to recover from his little thing to the Defiance. Was it Defiance? That was the name of the spire he went to?
I think so.
Or Dependence? Maybe.
Oh, Dependence. I think it's Dependence.
Yeah. But like, they're all like seriously wounded. Bridget is so wounded she can't even. She needs a wheelchair. Benedict's barely holding on there, and like he even like passes out later because he's finally just exhausted himself.
Yeah, so exhausted. That's another funny thing. So they find out that the Mist Maw is the one that attacks, and they're like, we got to go warn them. So the Spire sends Bridget, who can't even walk or move, to go warn them. I'm like, what the frick? And it's like, your wounds will testify to how urgent this is. I'm like, but she wasn't wounded by a Mist Maw attack. She was wounded by Scyther.
By Scyther. It was Scyther. A 12-foot Scyther. Or a 7-foot, whatever that they were.
It's totally Jim Butcher style. All the characters are mortally wounded, and they have to go into this insane end of the world. I have to win or everyone dies fight.
Yeah. Even like, I think it's literally like every single main character, because even like on the other side, there's Calliope, Colonel Espira, and Sergeant Syriaco. They're all injured too.
Yeah, they're all really wounded.
By the time like the end battle of the book comes around. That's hilarious. That is just his style, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, I would love to do, I think it'd be fun just to see, is I would love to read his son's book. James Butcher, I can't remember what his name is. But
I think it's James, yeah.
And let's read James Butcher's books and compare them to Jim Butcher's book and see if they're like, oh, Jim's
going to be like, my biggest piece of advice is you got to mortally wound your characters.
Just had a little meeting about that. That'd be hilarious.
It's honestly not a big deal. The only time I really ever noticed and was like annoyed by it is when I reread the Dresden books when Battleground came out. I just read them, was like, bing, 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 bing. And I was like 15 books in a row. And I was just like, okay. This is happening like every time. But like if you're just reading a normal pace, I don't think it's really
like reading them as they come out or something.
Yeah, I think it more comes across, but it was just kind of like...
No, I totally get that.
And like I was thinking about it, and even though Harry Dresden gets, and I think why it works for Butcher, I'm going back to Dresden because we don't have as much of breadth as in the Cinder Spires as we do with the Dresden Files, but Harry does like improve. Like every time he gets injured in a book, it's not the same type of injury. Like almost every time he gets injured, it's like by bigger and stronger foes, and he's like getting better and he's getting stronger, and like he mentions like, oh, this I got injured in this way, so I like prepared in this way. Like one of the big ways is like he was really out of shape, and so he got in really good shape so he could like run because he was out of shape, he got injured, so he learned from it. Another one was he had to put a shield up to block fire, but he learned that he didn't block heat, and so he got like insanely burned.
Yeah.
And so he improved his shields and he improved his defensive magic and his things. And so like even though he gets these injuries, he's like learning from them and growing and like becoming more powerful and stronger.
Yeah.
And like getting wounded by more powerful enemies. Like every book is like a more powerful enemy. Like at first it was just like some thugs in a drive-by shooting, and then it's like, oh, this is like a freaking centuries old vampire that even freaking McCoy's, I don't know what's his name, his granddad.
Yeah, Ebenezer McCoy, the guy
like
who raised him.
even like McCoy is a little weary of, and so it's kind of like,
Yeah.
and so
It's not like it's the same thing where he goes out and some like low life vampire just like, ooh.
yeah, he's not like spraining his ankle or he's not like falling off a ladder. Like he's battling like really foes that are like above his weight class.
Yeah.
Which is totally fits for Harry Dresden's character because he's like really against bullying. He's like, we're talking about the completely different. But anyways, my point I'm trying to make is even though this happens, like Butcher I think is good at tying it into realistic good character growth.
Yeah. So maybe we'll see. I don't know. These are kind of different. I don't know. Maybe Grimm will be a little bit better of a swordsman or something after fighting Valesco.
Yeah, I
Or
don't
maybe
know if, I don't know
maybe
if
now this is like one of those things where like he's kind of like down for the count. He can be like a strategist and a commander, but he won't be able to actually be there with his men himself to like put his sword into them. Or maybe he'll be like a sniper. He was kicking butt with those pistols.
Yeah, he was like really good at shooting.
I have pictured those pistols as like the ones that like you see on Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, is that what you kind of pictured? Like
I was totally picturing muskets.
Like musket type things, yeah.
Because he had to shoot and then they had to reload, and at the end of fighting, they even were like, go get the barrels of gunpowder and reload all the guns.
Yeah.
And so I think it's definitely musket loaded.
I always like imagine how cool it would be to like show our technology to certain pieces of like book. Like we've always talked about how awesome it would be to bring like a massive machine gun to the Battle of Helm's Deep or something. But like I want to see like what if you were to just give Grimm like just a little pistol with like 10 round magazine or something, and then like see what you can do with this. It's much more reliable. It's not going to explode in your face.
Right.
He probably doesn't own it. Can make him totally into like a modern day like hitman or something. Get him a sniper too. Like, oh dang, you'd probably kick butt with that.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, there's like a ton going on. There's like everyone just has their own issues. Everyone's having their own battles to deal with, and
I was super annoyed with. I hated because I was predicting last episode that like there's no way Aspira and the Auroran Marines are going to be able to handle. They're not going to be able to take Cavendish anymore, and it was totally true. Like she drove them to betray her and to mutiny against her.
But then like I feel like the only reason they succeeded is because Calliope betrayed them.
You think if Calliope hadn't betrayed them and like tried to go on
I think they would have had a reasonable chance. Because remember, they threw those grenades in, but they turned out to be duds. But I mean, if they hadn't have been duds, I think they would have honestly had a chance. But Calliope decided to betray them.
Freaking Calliope.
And then Calliope gets in turn betrayed by Cavendish.
And then she
turns the whole crew into zombies.
Yeah.
Like,
Anyway,
really
I was just going to
zombies.
say I hated that whole betrayal by Cavendish. I was like, freaking Cavendish, you're so stupid.
You mean Calliope or Cavendish?
Oh, well, Cavendish is stupid, but Calliope was stupid for betraying Aspira, I think.
Yeah.
But yes, holy crap, we got another version of a zombie. They're creepy as crap.
Yes, they are, because you get some sickness, then it makes crystals explode your eyeballs, and then you die, and then turn into a zombie.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, it was classic good stuff.
Yes.
I started feeling bad for the Aurorans. So like, oh man, that kind of sucks that Aspira and the sergeant guy, the Warriorborn, has to like kill their own men. I was like, wait a minute, these are the sons of bees from the first book who like attacked Spire Albion and like killed people. I'm like, you good, I'm glad you're dead.
Yeah, even though he has like a moral turnaround. But he
Yes.
still decides he's like, even though he commits mutiny and goes against Cavendish and the king's wishes, he's like, I'm still going to go back to Spire Aurora.
Yeah,
and
that
face the
part was
consequences.
like the biggest surprise for me. I didn't see that. I totally thought like he would not go back.
Yeah, but he's full on planning on going back.
But like, I mean, like, I kind of thought maybe if he would go back, he was going to go back to help his people and to make sure like his men were taken care of and stuff like that, which he kind of is. But like, I didn't think he'd go back and be like, okay, I did this bad thing, even though like you gave him this murderous woman to look after us who just kills us like we're nothing. And I did not think he'd go back and be punished for that. I would have been like, screw you, freaking Tuscarora.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought too, but apparently not. All this fight with the zombies and stuff happens because as the Mistmaw's attacking, there's actually a really cool scene. So the Mistmaw comes up, they go to Spire Olympia, the Mistmaw starts attacking the Skyport. And it throws a bunch of ships, but a ton of ships are able to kind of escape. And they form like a big old line of firing and then just like unload on the Mistmaw.
Yeah.
And like barely even hurt it.
Yeah. Because the interesting thing is we find out that the Mistmaw's got its own little shroud.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
a lot of what they shot at it just kind of bounced off, but then even still, the ones that got through still had like this thick skin. It's probably like, I think more than anything, the Mistmaw just got annoyed because it was like getting all these pinpricks all over it. And they're like, quit it.
That's definitely how it described it, because it like stopped eating the people and like started turning towards the ships and it was like,
Yeah. Probably sounded like that too.
But then of course Cavendish like took it back over and like made it start attacking people again. But then during that, Grimm finds out, he's like, I bet freaking Cavendish is controlling this. And so he finds that he's able to help, Folly's able to help him. And
oh, actually, one thing that I thought was super cool about this is somehow suddenly the ship Predator is able to talk to Grimm.
yeah, I thought it was kind of funny because the ship was like a female voice and was like acting like one of the crew.
Yeah.
Which I thought was funny. And I was like, Captain, the enemy ship is close.
Yeah.
And he's like, the heck? And Grimm's like the only one that can hear it, but he like responds out loud and everyone's like looking at him like, you crazy bastard.
They eventually got used to it, I guess, because
Yeah.
they didn't say anything. But still, be like, did that duel take more out of you than we thought? You need to go take a nap.
Yeah, they're able to locate the ship and then attack. And then they're like losing and they're like, oh no, we're all going to die because these crazy zombies that don't feel pain. But then the Pikers come with Ravenna. They're able to push through and they kind of get in like this weird standoff with Cavendish because Cavendish is able to do some etherealist something and she attaches the freaking some sort of crystal to her heart.
It was the crystal of the ship, no?
Yeah, it was like the main power core crystal, I think. And if she died, it would overload the crystal, which would cause it to explode. Which apparently something else that she's doing is making crystals not really work anyway. Like they couldn't use their cannons.
Oh yeah, like the
the whole reason they boarded is because they realized that if they shoot their cannons, they'll explode. And then they're like, and they find out Ferris is with them, and he's like, yeah, if the main crystal blows up, it'll probably be powerful enough to destroy the Spire even.
like that was what blew me away. It's like
That's a
apparently like Misthark is not a big ship. It's not like a dreadnought. So it's got a reasonable sized crystal, but apparently it's big enough to where if it would have exploded, it would destroy all the ships, probably the Mistmaw, and destroy the Spire. And I want to know, I don't know, because the way I took that is like that Spire would be gone. It'd be obliterated. It'd just be rubble and stuff.
Yeah.
And like the Spire material is apparently so strong that the only thing in these spires that can seem to get destroyed is the stuff that these modern people built, like out of wood.
Yeah, put on top of the Spire.
Whatever the crap that this Spire stone is so dang strong. But apparently these crystals blow up and it'll destroy it. So that is almost incomprehensible.
But apparently only because of what she's doing. Like if they blow up on themselves, I don't think it'll be enough to blow up the Spire. But it's just like something that Cavendish has done in the immediate area around a Misthark is making crystals behave this way. That's all. Who knows what she's doing? But we also get a little bit of insight of maybe who the builders were. We don't know if how right this is, but Cavendish says that she's basically trying to reset society because she said she had a vision given by some alternate dimension dude that showed
probably the
Earth.
guy that Folly saw in the last book.
Yeah, but pretty much Earth how it is now, because she mentioned, she's like, we lived on the surface with great cities and lights when we took our meat from live animals and not from
And she even
bats
mentions, I don't remember if she mentions like airplanes, but she mentions like something like there was transportation that was so fast that it makes these ships look slow. And I was like, oh.
So basically our world, our society as it is now, something happened and now there's like this crazy jungle, and they can only live on spires.
Yeah.
And Ferris later talks about there was some ancient enemy that's now after, and it's been 10,000 years.
Yeah.
And
And
now
I thought it was
resurface.
interesting that it's the ancient enemy of the builders.
Yeah,
So
so
I
of like
think-
humans. So because she said the builders of the spire were those people who were humans. So
So it could be interesting.
yeah, interesting. So some ancient enemy is beginning to rear its head.
And I think I was expecting this series to continue just like with some sort of war with Aurora, but I think this is turning into like, well, Aurora is just like the beginning. And now what actually is happening is this ancient enemy was using Aurora and like Tuscarora to do stuff. But there's actually this whole other thing.
Cavendish even says that. She's like, yeah, Tuscarora had his uses, but now those are kind of over, and she's going to do other things. So we'll...
Yeah. So maybe with that, actually, maybe Tuscarora won't like have a spirit executed.
It kind of reminded me of Furies of Calderon.
Oh, yeah?
I can remember that. Like, they were first fighting amongst themselves, and then they realized that there was that... I don't even remember. I'm getting all the deals wrong. It's been a long time since I've read the series. But then there was that weird hive mind creatures.
Yeah, I remember something like that. Because I remember, like, the Cain with, like, the wolf guys, right?
Yeah.
Like, they fought a lot of wars against them, but then eventually they even had to join up with them to fight off.
They actually had gotten a big iceberg and float over to Altera or Alaria, whatever it was called.
Yeah. Man, I don't remember that series very well at all. I need to
I
reread
wouldn't
it.
mind rereading it. It was a fun series.
It was a
really
way
good.
fun series.
It was really good.
And I love the backstory about that, how, like, Jim Butcher was talking to some other author and was like, you can write a story about anything. Like, nah. And he's like, hey, give me two things. And he like said Pokemon and something else. And then that's how the Codex Alera series came about, is
What do you say? Pokemon and Roman Empire?
something like that. I don't,
Because it is very Roman.
yeah. So it's something like that.
The
And like,
names are like Marcus and Gaius.
I personally think that like the Codex Alera series is a series that I would highly recommend to anyone looking for just a fun series. It was really good. I remember really liking it.
It's fun if you're a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, it takes that even farther because like there's only 4 elements, and let's not get crazy because there's the whole, you know, like they use lightning and metal and whatever. No, there's 4 elements.
Yeah.
But like this one goes farther. Like there's steel people and there's wood people, and then there's people who can do like stuff with air, and people who can do stuff with fire and earth and stuff like that. But then there's like a whole ton of different things. But what I remember loving about that, another tangent here, and we're talking about Jim Butcher books, so it doesn't matter. But what I thought was super cool was like the people who I don't remember what they were called, that had steel furies were like super good swordsmen.
Yeah.
Versus like the people who were good with had wood furies were like good woodsmen or above, stuff like that. So it wasn't just like they could throw around all these elements. They had specific skills that just I thought it was a super unique look, and it was
I
just,
thought so too.
it was really awesome.
Yeah, it wasn't them controlling the. I think I didn't realize these had Pokemon, but yeah, like they would bond with elementals essentially, and then be able to use. Then like different elementals were stronger than other elementals, and I'm like, now whenever I read that book, I'm totally gonna be thinking about Pokemon.
Right. I heard about that interview with Jim Butcher years and years after I read the books, so it'd be really fun to read it again with that in mind.
I'll be curious to listen to that interview.
I gotta find it again because
Sure, it's on YouTube somewhere.
I'm sure.
Probably just type in Jim Butcher Pokemon, it'll probably pop up. Anyway, the Olympian Affair.
Oh yeah.
So Abigail also had a duel during this time. It was like a little less climatic than.
And it was that one was more of like a political statement also, because this actually surprised me because Abigail's duel was with a warriorborn as well, but she kicked butt. Like that warriorborn couldn't get anything.
I think she beat that warriorborn the same way that Bayard would have been able to beat Rafe, to be 100% honest. Because the warriorborn was faster than her, stronger than her, but all she had to do was be patient, and then she was young enough that she got too aggressive and overstepped, and she was able to cut her here and there and get really good cuts, like severing. I think at one point she severs her behind her knee, like hamstrings her.
Yeah, something crazy like that.
And apparently the way this duel, they did a duel sanguinis or something like that, where it's to duel the first blood. And I thought that meant it would be over, but apparently once you get first blood, they stop the duel. And then the moderator, or whatever the heck,
I think it was the moderator,
says like, okay, first blood's been done, is honor satisfied? And then that person who got cut can be like, no, like we're still fighting.
And that warriorborn lady, I forgot her name. initiate something or other, but she was always like, oh, she was super prideful.
Well, she kept looking back at, because she was championing for that etherealist, and every time she would look back at her and then be like, no. And then she'd look back and like, no.
Oh, so it was the other way. It was
yeah,
like,
but then eventually, Abigail, Lady Hestia, or Hinton, is the one who ends the duel. Because she's like, cause apparently she got cut a little bit, and she's like, honor has been met.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing about it too is like that I thought was just funny, is that Warrior Burn did not get the cut. Like she, Lady Hinton trapped the Warriorborn's sword and then just pricked her finger like, hey, I'm bleeding and I'm saying it. This is satisfied. So she lost the duel, but
which was like what you were saying. It was just basically a political stunt and all that.
Good stuff.
And then she's able to save the King of Olympia.
Yes.
Because he's being manipulated by...
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that, but they had like a new type of like clothing that some...
We talked about that last episode because they tried to manipulate Lady Hinton with it, but...
Oh, that's right. And we talked about why. That's why Folly had the crystals and such around her head.
The Tuscarora's sister is holding the king in place. And apparently the way this makes you feel is it makes you feel like you just want to stare at her.
Yeah, apparently.
Just be like...
Literally.
Because when Lady Hinton is describing it, it's like, it would be so nice just to kind of curl up in a ball next to her and just lay there and relax.
Yeah.
But then she's like, no, bitch.
Yeah, and then she came in and... What did she do? Point a pistol to her face or something? I can't remember. Oh, it was a sword. She had a sword.
Because there was like, she had like a necklace or something that was doing something. Because she cut a necklace off, and then it kind of made the king be like, huh?
Yeah, there was like him and his
sister.
And I forgot her name. She had a funny name.
Iphigenia.
Oh, yeah, Iphigenia,
yeah. That's right.
Yeah, they both were just like, oh, then snapped right out of it.
Yeah.
So cool stuff. Freaking etherealists could do a lot of crazy crap.
And this gets us to the next crazy point. Apparently, Folly is able to do something to make crystals, like core crystals, grow in like weeks and months instead of years. Because normally it takes like the big lift crystals and power core crystals decades and decades to grow.
And that's why and
she's like, I can do it in half that. And then she's been able to do it in such a way that Aurora essentially has 2 fleets.
Yeah. They had so many ships.
And she tries to manipulate, like we said, there was a standoff between Grimm and his crew and Cavendish. And she's all like, if you spare me and join me, or I don't know if she says join me, but she says spare me, then I can give you this crystal and you can grow crystals in weeks. Like, ooh la la. And he's all like, shut up.
Which, like, that's a huge turning point because they already showed that, like, Spire Aurora had a massive fleet.
And they sent the whole fleet after Olympia because apparently their whole goal was to wipe out their defenses and soften them up with the Mist Maw, then come in and take over and have this big old trade port and just get a bunch of money. But that backfires on them because Grimm and crew and the Pikers and Ravenna are able to overpower the zombies. They get there, and then Ferris jumps in the vat, and he takes over the Mist Maw and makes it attack the Auroran fleet and destroy it.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, but they have another fleet, so they have 2 fleets.
Yeah, jeez.
And so it kind of paints a picture. It's like, yeah, there's this bigger enemy at large, but Tuscarora is still a threat, but maybe because he got spanked so hard, he'll kind of back off a little bit. Maybe they're going to have to team up to beat this.
Yeah.
Or maybe
I don't remember. Did they actually get the crystal that Cavendish was like?
No, because what happens is Cavendish does something to make the mist shark like lose half of its crystal, so like turns.
Right.
And then they barely escape, and then Predator and Mist Shark crash to the surface.
Yeah. And I actually hated this because like the things that they use as a boarding thing, like it latches the ships together. So if one ship goes down, the other one goes with it. And so
it's not like an easy release.
And like they malfunctioned at the last minute, and so they stuck the 2 ships together, and they couldn't get them apart. And on top of that, there was still that like ethereal shield around the Mist Shark that was screwing up all the crystals, so they couldn't use Predator's crystals to power up and keep them afloat because it just blow them all to crap if they would have done that.
It made me think of the bridge crews in the Stormlight Archives. Remember the bridges? Well, not the ones that they carry, I guess, on the bridge crews, but the ones that the bridges that Dalinar's army uses.
The ones that
they get pulled by the Chols.
Yeah.
And they lower it. They have like a latch. You pull the latch and it just collapses the whole thing. I'm surprised they didn't have something like that. Like you just go like, and then it goes.
They should have.
Because they're like, apparently they're supposed to be somewhere. They're supposed to be able to kind of do that, but it malfunctioned. So then they put black powder and they're going to blow it up, but then the rain got it wet. And so, yeah, they just got stuck and they went down. Which gives us the epilogue, which...
Yeah, the epilogue was pretty crazy, I think.
Which Gwen decided to go down with Predator, but she survives the fall barely. She can't... She's really beat
and
up
I think it sounds like the reason she went down with Predator is to, like, try to save it.
Yeah, she was going to try to land
and it seemed
softly.
Like
It did not happen.
it's not completely destroyed as far as we know, at least.
But it's upside down.
But it is upside down.
And Cavendish survived as well, but she got blinded.
Yeah, she has no eyeballs anymore or whatever.
Yeah, and the epilogue in the book ends with Cavendish and Gwen teaming up so they can survive the surface together.
Yeah.
It's kind of like...
Yeah, seriously.
Gwen technically did try to kill Cavendish.
Yeah.
Because she had a black powder weapon. She was pointing at her, and she pulled the trigger and went... But
it was raining, so it was wet.
And they were like, okay, we'll work it out together. And I'm like, freaking A. You just got to kill Cavendish.
And they I hate that it's true, but they kind of do need each other because when Cavendish came up, there was some creature that was going to eat them. But and Gwen was like, her ankle's broken and she only has a useless black powder weapon and like a knife or something, so she probably would have been killed by it. And Cavendish is blind. The only reason Cavendish wasn't killed by this creature is because Gwen was like, "Behind you," and then she just blew it up with a etheric blast of sorts.
And apparently, there's been like a whole herd of them feeding on the crew of the Mist Shark, and Cavendish is like, "They're almost done eating all them, and they're coming for us next."
Yes, and Gwen told somebody to like tell Lord Lancaster that she went down with the ship because he'll rally a rescue party quicker than anyone else. And so I'm actually kind of curious because Benedict's going to go with him too to try to find Gwen, and I'm curious if we're going to get like another small book just like about saving Gwen. But I don't know. I thought that before I read that Cavendish survived and was with her. So maybe with Cavendish, with Gwen, it'll be more part of the main story of them trying to survive.
Yeah, like the first half of the book.
Like exactly. Like they'll survive the first half of the book, and then
like they'll have to leave the wreckage. They'll find the wreckage of Predator and Mist Shark, but not Cavendish and Gwen. And they'll assume they're dead, and they have to like find their way to Aspire and climb up it or something.
Which, if they're smart, they should definitely stay. I think they'll have to stay by the ship for a while, depending on like this whole book only took was the time span of like a week. So if they do something like that, then I think they're going to spend the entire book with Mist Sharks and Predator, mainly Predator, because with Gwen's broken ankle, she's not going to be able to go anywhere, especially on the surface.
But yeah, so final impressions, what do you think?
Wait, before we get to that, we got some other stuff to talk about that I want to mention before we get off. There was something else that they mentioned in the epilogue that I thought was super interesting, because the last thing we get is a meeting between the Spire Arc Albion, the clan chief Maul,
I can't believe we forgot about this.
And then an Archangel was there. And he that's where we actually learn about like the ancient enemy of the Builders is coming back. And I thought that was super interesting. That's why I think this is like not going to be about Aurora. This rest of this series is not going to be about fighting Spire Aurora. Maybe it'll still be about it, and they'll have to figure out how to.
I bet it's going to be like Spire Aurora. They're going to be like, we have to fight together against this person, and Spire Aurora is going to be like, screw you.
Yeah, I kind of wonder. Maybe Tuscarora will get his head out of his butt or whatever, and then decide to not be a jerk and help out, because it's going to be interesting. Yeah. And there's two things that I thought was interesting. One, I was surprised that I'm surprised an Archangel was there, because earlier Cavendish was talking about how they were all dead, and
apparently they were what was keeping the enemy like captive.
Yeah, and so,
or at least preventing it from taking action.
I wonder if maybe this one's the only one left, or there's still a few alive, but they're not all dead, or something like that. I'm interested to learn what's up there.
Very curious.
I also loved what he said. Is like he talked about that the Archangel was saying at the end that like these guys' ancestors, like the Builders, hurt this ancient enemy so bad that it literally has been taking them 10,000 years to recover and like lick their wounds, and now they're finally strong enough. I'm like, dang, what do these humans do to them?
It's like send all the nukes after it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what it was. They sent all the nukes, and that's what transformed all the little Scythers into giant frick bugs.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So this series, the end of this book is just maybe being like, oh dang, I really want the next one. Like, please don't make us wait 10 years.
Right. Hopefully he's in it and more into it. But
I did read a little bit about it where like Jim was saying that some stuff went down after he wrote the Aeronauts Windlass, that he lost interest in the series and he had some issues with, like, I don't know if it was like mental health or he just got sick and stuff just happened in his personal life that really just kind of drove this out. But then I think there was not necessarily an uproar, but like all the fans were like, no, please finish the series or something. And then he got back into it. And now he says he's back into it and he's enjoyed writing this book and such. So I hope that means that we won't have to wait any more than 2 years. I don't know.
I wonder if he wrote Warrior Born when he was not really into it.
I wonder.
It's not as good as
maybe that's why. And then he was like, actually, I kind of enjoy this. And then he wrote The Olympian Affair. I wonder. Because I remember seeing somewhere too that this is supposed to be like a 4 or 5, maybe even 6 book series. So I'm like, so we're just scratching the surface if it's going to be that long so far. Give us the rest.
Yeah, seriously. It was exciting. I think overall I really liked this book. The series is good so far.
100%.
It's typical Jim Butcher, fast-paced action mystery, kind of solving mysteries, and then at the last minute try to fight some big baddie.
Yeah.
So it's very good.
Good classic stuff like that.
Yeah.
I would just reiterate what we said about the Aeronauts Windlass. So like, this isn't like a super complex series, but it's still very enjoyable. So if people are looking for like a casual read, that's maybe just not like a boring casual read, then I think this is right up that alley. It's not like too. I will always recommend like Brandon Sanderson and the Stormlight Archive and the Cosmere stuff, but that stuff is if you want to get into the Cosmere, you gotta pay attention and like remember stuff, and then when you read other books, you're like, oh, that was mentioned in this book, and that's in this book, and this is there, and then so there's like a whole bunch of stuff. But this is just like, it's just its own thing, and there's not anything crazy about it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, I would say overall, I would agree, this is a great series thus far, and I'm super excited to continue it. I hope Sir Jim Butcher doesn't get bored of it again or anything.
Cool. Amen. We haven't quite picked the book we're going to do next. We're kind of looking at a few different options. Either pick up something from Anthony Ryan, or maybe from Joe Abercrombie, or maybe another Brandon Sanderson book, or something else. So
lots of choices.
We'll let you know next week. We'll decide in the next few days
Yes.
what we're going to read, start reading it, and then bring a fresh new series to you.
Indeed.
I think we'll maybe lean towards reading it through a series that already is complete, so we don't have to like. Yeah,
it's definitely nicer.
Yeah.
Even if we weren't doing a podcast, it's so much nicer to read a series that's complete.
Yeah. Scott Lynch is another option.
Oh,
Although we might wait until the 4th book comes out for that. But
so if he comes out within the next few days, then we'll start it.
Then we'll start that. Anyway, well, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
It was fun reading the Olympian Affair, getting into another Jim Butcher series.
Definitely let us know if you read it, what you thought about it, if you enjoyed it. Perhaps we convince you to read it.
Or to not read it, whatever.
Yeah, maybe we convince you not to read it. Stay away. Alrighty. It's been fun. We'll catch y'all in the next episode.
See ya. It's over.